on Inside City Hall. The two teenagers who brought explosives to dueling protests outside Gracie Mansion over the weekend were in federal court today and now face multiple charges. Prosecutors say that the pair supported the terrorist organization ISIS. We'll bring you the very latest in that investigation.
New York City will never tolerate violence.
Mayor Mamdani was joined by Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch, where the two denounced the incident outside Gracie Mansion and called for accountability. Also tonight, I'll speak with Rachel Fee, the executive director of the New York Housing Conference, about a new report on housing eviction cases. For the best news, debate, and analysis of New York politics, join us inside City Hall. Good evening. Welcome to Inside City Hall for Monday, March 9th, 2026. I'm Errol Lewis. After allegedly trying to turn a weekend protest outside Gracie Mansion into a bloodbath, two Pennsylvania teenagers appeared in federal court today. Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch says that New Yorkers are lucky that two homemade bombs did not explode when the suspects were targeting anti-Muslim protests. Our Ayanna Harry was in court earlier today and joins me now with tonight's top story. Good evening, Ayanna.
Good evening, Errol. The defense attorney for one of the suspects in this case told me his client is an 18-year-old high school senior with just 3 classes left to graduate, and he comes from a good family. But federal prosecutors say both suspects in this case were inspired by ISIS, and at least one of their devices could have been lethal. New York One has learned new details about the two Pennsylvania teens accused of throwing shrapnel-filled homemade devices Saturday near the mayor's residence.
As alleged, both defendants have admitted that they acted on Saturday because of ISIS.
Had these IEDs functioned the way the perpetrators allegedly wanted them to, they could have caused death, destruction.
Shackled, handcuffed, and wearing white jumpsuits, 18-year-old Amir Balat and 19-year-old Ibrahim Kayumi appeared in court Monday afternoon, charged with attempting to detonate explosive devices and providing material support to a foreign terrorist organization after the two brought explosives to a chaotic protest. After confirming they understood the charges against them, the teens were held without bail. Outside court, Amir Balat's defense attorney told New York One he comes from a hardworking family.
18 years old, he's been 18 for 2 months. He's a high school student. This is the first time he's ever been connected to anything like this. He has no history of any kind of violence.
But prosecutors said Balat wanted to carry out an attack, quote, bigger than the Boston Marathon bombing. Investigators found at least one of the explosives recovered contained what's known as TATP.
TATP is highly dangerous and extremely volatile.
This investigation has now spanned from Pennsylvania, where both teens are from, to the Upper East Side. Police believe Balat and Kayumi drove to New York City Saturday to counter-protest a far-right demonstration. 2 explosives were thrown near Gracie Mansion Saturday just before the two were arrested, and a third was recovered in a parked car nearby Sunday. During a police graduation ceremony Monday, Commissioner Jessica Tisch praised 2 officers on the scene.
In that moment, like generations of police officers before them, they stepped forward and protected the people around them.
Balat and Kayumi are both due back in court on April 8th. Their defense attorneys asked that they both be held in protective custody while they remain in federal detention, considering their young ages, as well as some of the details of this case, Errol.
And I believe they both come from immigrant families, but they're Americans, right? I mean, they were born here.
They are born here. Mr. Balat's attorney told us that his client is a U.S. citizen. And from what we've learned through reading through the paperwork filed in court and what was said in court so far, is it seems that these two may have been inspired to act through videos that they saw online.
Yeah, it seems like a long way to drive for a protest that probably wasn't going to last that long. I wonder how they managed to get here just in time for that.
Yeah, there's still so many questions to this investigation, but investigators are pointing to the presence of TATP in at least one of the explosives as a potential clear intent to do some harm to people.
Okay, thanks very much, Ayanna. All of this presents yet another major political test for Mayor Mamdani just months after taking office. Our Kelly Mena joins me now with that part of the story. Good evening, Kelly.
Good evening, Errol. And Mayor Mamdani, alongside top police officials, were looking to calm the city's nerves by denouncing the violence over the weekend and showing support for the city's police department.
New York City will never tolerate violence, whether from protests or counter-protests.
Mayor Zohran Mamdani forcefully denounced the events that transpired over the weekend outside Gracie Mansion. The violent clashes between anti-Muslim protesters and counter-protesters, allegedly armed with improvised explosive devices, is emerging as a big leadership test for Mamdani.
I want to commend the officers who were on site. They faced a chaotic situation that very quickly could have become far more dangerous. NYPD Chief Aaron Edwards and Sergeant Luis Navarro ran towards the danger so that others could run to safety.
The mayor and police commissioner presented a united front on Monday morning at Gracie Mansion. Mamdani even personally thanked the two police officers who apprehended the suspects who allegedly deployed the bombs.
I think the public, even though, people may still have mixed feelings about Mamdani in such a close election, they know that the police department is in good hands.
Nicole Gelinas, a senior fellow at the Conservative Manhattan Institute, said Mamdani's calculated approach to the situation seems to be faring well, especially his support of the NYPD. Mamdani in the past has been critical of the police department's handling of protests. Gelinas noted that Mamdani, who took a day to put out an initial response to the protests, is still within his first 100 days in office.
He's a new mayor. He's learning on the job. Those are more not so serious flaws, and I think they did a pretty good job today of explaining the arrests.
As the investigation continues, Governor Hochul says the state is helping keep the city safe, including state police increasing their patrols at sensitive sites and more than 1,000 National Guard deployed at transit locations across the 5 boroughs.
Violence inspired by hate is intolerable. It's not who we are as New Yorkers. Let's be clear also, the Islamophobic protest that triggered all this is abhorrent. It's against our values as New Yorkers.
Mamdani said he and his wife, Rama Dawaji, weren't home on Saturday. They were at the New York City Sign Museum in Brooklyn. Despite the fallout, Mamdani still defended the right to protest.
While I found this protest appalling, I will not waver in my belief that it should be allowed to happen. Ours is a free society where the right to peaceful protest is sacred. It does not belong only to those we agree with. It belongs to everyone.
And later in the day on Monday, after those two suspects were the complaint was read against him, Mayor Mamdani put out a statement calling it a heinous act of terrorism and said that the two individuals suspected of these incidents should be held fully accountable for their actions, Errol.
Yeah, much of the criticism that was directed at the mayor seemed to be around how quickly he issued what ended up being the statement you just referred to.
Yeah, and I think for him, speaking to some experts, it was a calculated response for him. Coming out too early and with not enough information would have led him to possibly have to retract or change information. Also, as the mayor, you don't want to be putting out or highlighting disinformation or misinformation when there is a heightened sense of security or unsafety, especially around that area of Gracie Mansion.
Yeah, this whole question about whether or not the right-wing protest led to the counter-protest in some ways is besides the point when it comes to the question of violence, right?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, and I think that's what the mayor was trying to get to with this idea of everybody has a right to protest, but peacefully in a way that both sides get a chance to get their points across. It was also interesting because earlier today, Jake Lang was actually outside Gracie Mansion, continuing that type of protest and rhetoric that he had started on Saturday. No counter-protesters today, but I think for the mayor, it's about clamping down on that violence and making sure that people understand New York City is not a place to do that.
And it's a small thing, I guess, in the grand scheme of things, but these are not New Yorkers. So whatever happened, both the protest, the counter-protest, the terrorist attack, all seem to involve people who are not from New York.
Yes, all people from out of state. The two individuals, suspects, are from Pennsylvania. It's unclear how they traveled here, how they planned this out. The Jake Lang protest had been, advertised for at least a week in advance. So these aren't New Yorkers. I don't think these are necessarily individuals that are from here, and how this entire thing was organized, I think, is under investigation, and why maybe it wasn't more highly reviewed ahead of time is definitely a question that many people have.
Okay, thanks very much, Kelly. We are going to take a short break now. When we come back, City Council member Vicky Paladino is suing the City Council in an effort to block an upcoming hearing on her social media posts by the Ethics Committee. We'll explain in 2 minutes. Stay with us.
Every day tells a new story. At Mornings on One, we're dedicated to bringing you the stories that matter most to start your day. With in-depth coverage of the day's news.
I'm Pat Kernan. Here are the stories we're following.
And weather updates every 10 minutes.
Tomorrow, some morning sunshine possible. Clouds take over.
It's our responsibility to get you the information you need before you head out the door. Mornings on One. Weekdays starting at 6 on the Spectrum News app. Free for Spectrum and Xfinity customers.
The storm came through with 120-mile-an-hour winds through our neighborhood. My daughter had to evacuate to our house while we were out of town. Sure enough, power goes out. When the generator kicked back on, it, of course, powered the Spectrum modem. She didn't lose service, and we didn't lose connectivity with her through the entire storm. We both breathed a sigh of relief. To have her feel safe and us feel reassured that she was okay was priceless.
Real customers, real reliability. To get the most reliable internet, visit spectrum.com/stay connected.
I'm Sandra, this is Jorge, and we were adopted in 2019. I remember when they first came to us, Michael was already a teenager. The whole cliche of they're so lucky to have you guys, and it's the other way around. They have changed our family for the better. They chose to love us. They didn't have to. They chose us. Family.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org.
Going into the 2026 election, local races will determine national policy, from the economy to public safety. From the governor's race to the balance of power in Washington, this year's ballot has no shortage of important choices. Let Spectrum News New York One be your resource for balanced, up-to-date coverage and analysis, so you can know what the issues are and how they impact your community. Always dedicated, always local, always on. Decision 2026 on Spectrum News New York One. Welcome back to Inside City Hall. Embattled City Councilwoman Vicky Paladino of Queens is facing disciplinary action over some offensive social media posts. Now she is going on the offensive, filing a lawsuit today against her council colleagues, who she is accusing of violating her free speech rights. Our Bobby Kuza joins me now with more on that. Good evening.
Good evening, Errol. And just to give some of the background, she was charged last week by the City Council's Standards and Ethics Committee with violating the council's anti-harassment and discrimination policy. Now, just so people understand what we're talking about, there were a number of social media posts that were cited. I think the one that got her into the hottest water was this one from December. This was after the anti-Semitic terrorism incident in Australia, and she wrote, "We need to take very seriously the need to begin the expulsion of Muslims from Western nations," and goes on to say, "The administration, meaning the Trump administration, needs to begin developing a formal legal framework for the denaturalization process and get it over with before we end up with another 9/11 or worse." And then more recently, after Mayor Mamdani named the new head of the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs, Faiza Ali, who is Muslim but was born and raised in Brooklyn, then Vicky Paladino tweeted, "New York is under foreign occupation. There's really no other way to put it. Does this administration have one single actual American in it?" So all of this resulted in this disciplinary matter. She says this is core political speech that is protected by the First Amendment, and that it's unrelated to her work as a council member because she posted it from her personal account on X. It wasn't, targeting any council member. It didn't have anything to do with council business. And she also says that this is selective prosecution, which I'll explain a little bit more after this soundbite. This is from her attorney, Jim Walden, who spoke to us today.
The city council has no authority whatsoever policing private speech on a personal social media account. Number one. Number two, they've got no business policing speech at all. We've got the First Amendment that we all cherish. It's one of our most cherished liberties. And to attack someone based on the fact that you're offended by or don't like their speech is completely un-American. And third, they don't have a right to selectively prosecute.
So what she and her attorney are arguing is that she's being singled out because she's a Republican, she's from the minority party, and then she kind of goes through a list of other Democratic council members and takes swipes at a bunch of them, including Chiosei, the Brooklyn councilman, and says he's said a number of charged and offensive things, something about Italians that he said at a council hearing, and yet she says none of, this kind of disciplinary action was never initiated against any of these other members. She also takes a swipe at the council speaker, Julie Menin, suggesting that she's only doing this as part of a deal in order to win support for the speakership. So, she's arguing on a number of fronts here. She also says if she were to be expelled, because she does face, a range of possible discipline. She could be fined, she could be expelled from the council, and she argues that would disenfranchise the voters of the 19th Council District in Northeast Queens. The council did not really say much in response to this today. They did put out a statement saying no findings have yet been made, and while the process and the legal matter play out, they cannot comment further. But this is now going to drag out over a number of weeks as it works its way through the courts and through the Standards Committee.
It is an interesting question. There is a right to free speech. There's a legitimate question about whether or not what you tweet in your private life is related to your work. Although I think about the standards that you and I live under, and as I recall from the last training, pretty much anything we do is fair game.
Yeah, it is an interesting First Amendment case. I mean, I'm not a First Amendment lawyer, but I mean, her argument is that this was not in the context of the workplace, therefore it can't violate these workplace standards that is the basis for the council's complaint. But, being a public official, I think this is a unique case. She also says that this type of disciplinary matter has not been embarked upon before for simply political speech. I think she's not going to win a lot of sympathy because the content of those social media posts is so, is so Islamophobic that it feels over the top, but it may be protected, right? I mean, it's hard to know which way a judge is going to come down on this, but she's doing this very preemptively before the disciplinary matter even begins to play out and trying to sort of nip it in the bud before it gets underway.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine any public or private workplace where you could come in, or even just on your own time, go out and sort of publicly announce anybody who prays to the same God as my colleague should be expelled from the country.
Right. And I guess
you don't get to do that.
Yeah, I guess the distinction she argues is that it's political speech because, it's a matter of public policy. She's, talking about Mamdani's appointments and, how to combat terrorism. But, I think that's maybe framing it in a way that doesn't make it sound quite as offensive as I think most people found it.
Yeah, this is a real interesting one. We're going to continue following this. Thanks very much, Bobby. In other news, some Columbia University students, faculty, and other community members marked 1 year since Palestinian activist Mahmoud Khalil was arrested by immigration authorities. New York One's Nia Clark has the story from Morningside Heights.
They don't want anyone to speak for Palestine. They don't want anyone to speak for human rights.
A year to the day after Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents arrested Columbia University graduate student Mahmoud Khalil following his participation in pro-Palestinian campus protests. He has returned to the campus to blast the university for its handling of the protests.
I'm here with a very heavy heart too, next to an institution, a fortified fortress behind me, who did everything in its power to silence me, to disappear any Palestinian voice.
Columbia University counters that it supports students' rights to protest and advocate for issues they believe in. At the same time, we want to be very clear. No member of Columbia's leadership or its trustees has ever requested, invited, or coordinated the presence of ICE agents against members of our community. Khalil also criticized the Trump administration, which continues in its efforts to deport him. Although the federal government has not charged him with a crime, administration officials accuse him of promoting anti-Semitism in the demonstrations and failing to disclose key details on his application for permanent residency, which Khalil denies and his supporters deny.
The protests and dissent are not criminal acts.
While at Columbia Monday, Khalil also joined protesters in calling for the release of another activist, Leika Cordia, among the first pro-Palestinian demonstrators arrested for criticizing Israel's military actions in Gaza. She remains jailed and issued a statement through a spokesperson.
May Allah Almighty bless you and protect you. Stay bold, stay loud, stay unshakable, stay safe. Love, Leika Cordia.
Monday's press conference and protests follows the detention of another Columbia student who was arrested at her on-campus residence but was released hours later after appeals to the Trump administration from the university and Mayor Zohran Mamdani. Khalil, who was arrested last year in his Columbia-owned apartment, has two cases he's fighting, one in federal court and one in immigration court. While the federal judge who ordered him released has also issued an order barring the government from deporting Khalil, a U.S. appeals court said that judge had no authority to do so.
Just last week, we filed an appeal to the Board of Immigration. At the end of this month, we will ask the Third Circuit to review the federal court decision.
Last month, Mayor Zohran Mamdani asked the Trump administration to drop Khalil's case and that of 4 other immigrants here in the New York City area. Reporting from Columbia, Nia Clark, New York 1.
It is time now for a break. Coming up, state lawmakers are telling New York 1 they plan to pitch a tax hike on the wealthy in their counter-budget proposals, despite opposition by Governor Hochul. We'll bring you those details next. Stay with us.
Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
There's nothing quite like the feeling of going to the theater. Onstage celebrates that excitement every week by taking you behind the scenes with the latest news and in-depth interviews of the hottest shows on and off Broadway. So grab a seat, because this is a show you won't want to miss. Join us every Saturday and Sunday at 7:30 p.m. for Onstage.
Onstage is presented by your Tri-State Cadillac dealers. Discover which Cadillac is right for you and elevate your journey.
I had a heart attack about 1.5 years ago, and so now I have an ICD implant that needs stable and reliable internet to give routine checks and daily reports to my cardiologist. When my cardiologist told me he wasn't getting the information he needed, me and my fiance looked into better internet providers, and we found Spectrum. As soon as we switched, he said he saw every daily report, every routine check that they did. It made us feel like we were back in control of my life.
Real customers, real reliability. To get the most reliable internet, visit Spectrum.com.
Mom was always organized, but she started forgetting to pay her bills on time.
And she'd buy the same gifts over and over.
Telling the girls about my Alzheimer's diagnosis was really hard.
At first, we had our cries, but then we were like, okay, let's make a plan.
Early detection gave us time to adapt together.
It's so important for you to think about what you can do and making the most of what you have.
If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together.
From my time growing up in Queens watching New York 1 to my time reporting here, I've seen how quickly a story can change. At News All Day, we bring you the news as it's happening, from around the boroughs to local government to your neighborhood. Because our city never stops moving.
Hi, I'm Shannon Ferry with the day's developing stories. But first,
stay up to date and informed with News All Day, weekdays from noon to 4.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. Even though Governor Hochul is making it clear that she does not want to raise taxes on either wealthy New Yorkers or big New York businesses, Mayor Zohran Mamdani wants the Democratic-controlled legislature to side with him instead. Sources are telling New York One that legislative leaders are preparing to include tax hikes in their counter-proposals to the governor's budget plan. That's going to happen this week. But lawmakers are also telling New York that it might not be as easy to get done as the mayor might hope. Our State House reporter Bernadette Hogan joins me now with some analysis. Good evening, Bernadette.
Good evening, Errol. And as Mamdani was a former assemblyman, he's hoping he can convince his former colleagues to side with him against Governor Kathy Hochul. And there still are several weeks until the budget deadline is on April 1st. Appearing confident last week, a top mayoral aide says Mayor Zohran Mamdani will get his way in Albany.
The rich should be paying more.
In a new memo obtained by New York One, City Hall is pitching individual lawmakers to back billions of dollars in new taxes on millionaires and big corporations. And the city is also trying to send the state a roughly $2.3 billion bill, arguing it's owed millions of dollars in health care and local government spending.
I support both, and I'm not from the left wing of the Democratic Party.
Now, the legislature is set to release its so-called one-house budgets this week. And for years, lawmakers have included new taxes.
The legitimate deficits in New York City. There's also legitimate deficits in upstate New York. Then you have 470,000 New Yorkers about to be kicked off health insurance.
Although resolutions that don't carry the force of law, this year's counter-proposals should indicate whether Mamdani and the legislature will gang up on Governor Kathy Hochul and her anti-tax stance.
Our tax codes can help rectify the situation by giving a little bit more back in the pockets of working and middle-class people.
While Mamdani's Plan B, a property tax hike proposal in the city, appears dead on arrival.
What is the justification? Why are we doing this? Why would we do this if we're going to do this? We just can't wake up one morning and say, hey, we're going to raise taxes. You know, what's the purpose here?
To threaten property taxes means that you're not threatening the wealthiest. You're threatening people who are barely surviving, making it in their homes, mostly communities of color.
Hochul has allies.
I don't see the need to raise taxes at this point. You know, we were able to survive a pandemic without raising taxes. We did it with the migrant crisis.
I think it's too premature to say I support, unless it's the last resort.
And has the upper hand ahead of the April 1st budget deadline.
She gets the first word and the last word in everything that we do. So if we have an executive that is adamant about not touching any tax revenues, it'll be very difficult for us.
Moving her political chips early, the governor promised Mamdani billions for his fledgling free childcare program, arguing new taxes aren't needed when the state has a $17 billion surplus. But don't ask her where the money will come from to keep it going.
We did it with existing revenues. No, I said we can do it with existing revenues. Take what I'm saying as your answer. You got your answer.
And then totally separate from these proposals, there's at least one state lawmaker, Errol, who wants to enact a pay raise for legislators from their $142,000 annual salary to $180,000. That's State Senator James Sanders. But I've been told that's likely not to go anywhere. I mean, the legislature and Governor Hochul are both up for re-election, and a pay raise never really does well during a re-election year.
$180,000 would make it really one of the best paid legislative bodies in the country, right?
Yeah, and also higher than the city council, which already they make more money than the state officers do.
Very interesting. So now, look, the way the White House bills work, in theory, because they have a veto-proof majority, Democrats could, if they all hung together, push something through. It just doesn't sound like that's necessarily what's going to happen.
Right, yeah. If you have majority Democrats in both chambers, which there is, then they can go forward and try to stick it to the governor and say, well, actually, we do want a millionaire's tax, or to raise the personal income tax brackets, or to also raise the corporate tax. I mean, there's a whole host of things that they could try to force the governor to do. However, that takes a lot of, they have to whip votes. I mean, there's been other proposals in the past, too, even surrounding, say, for example, changes to bail reform. But then that's where lawmakers and their statements when rubber meets the road. And then a lot of them do concede that the governor has a lot of power in the state budget process. And the fact that the governor is not answering that question about, well, what about tax hikes in the future? Some of them might be contented to wait another year to see if they can move the governor around should she be successful in her reelection bid.
I see. Thank you very much for that, Bernadette. Let's take a break now. When we come back, a new report by the New York Housing Conference finds that New York City could save money on rental assistance. We'll talk about it with the executive director, Rachel Fee, in 2 minutes. Stay with us.
My time at New York One has shown me that in the city that never sleeps, the news never stops. So as the day winds down, turn to the rush hour.
Good afternoon, I'm Monica Burton.
To catch up on the stories that matter across the 5 boroughs, with in-depth interviews from the city's newsmakers, plus the latest forecast. Catching you up with today, preparing you for tomorrow. Right here on the Rush Hour. Weekdays from 4 to 7 p.m.
The Nanakuli Valley is the largest Hawaiian community in the state of Hawaii. Because of Spectrum and their investment, Alulike is a place that people can come and access technology. Many of our participants don't have computers at home. We have programs that help students, that help adults get employment. Spectrum gives us the tools to help more people get there.
I'm Chris Jakovic. I served in the United States Air Force and I deployed 3 times. So in 2017, I was serving as an Air Force First Sergeant. Our motto in that role is my job is people, everyone is my business. But unfortunately in that year, I would lose my own brother, Lance Corporal Adam Jakovic, to suicide. The majority of veteran suicides are from guns. I store my weapons securely, not only for myself, but for my family. My service never stops.
At Spectrum Noticias, we recognize that our New York City community is vibrant and diverse.
Spectrum Noticias delivers balanced coverage of the stories that matter in our communities and across the country.
Our journalists are based in the neighborhoods we cover, ensuring you get in-depth reporting on what's happening in the places we call home.
So join us at Spectrum Noticias. We're always on, always there for you.
Now available on your TV. Check your local listings. Also available on the Spectrum News app.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. Despite facing a budget crunch, city officials are making it clear that rental assistance programs are vital for hundreds of thousands of New Yorkers who are struggling to make ends meet. A new report by the nonprofit housing advocacy organization, the New York Housing Conference, claims that our city could reduce emergency rent assistance costs by intervening earlier in subsidized housing eviction cases. Here to break down what all of that means and the findings in this new report is the executive director of the New York Housing Conference, Rachel Fee. Good evening. Welcome to the program. Always good to see you.
Thank you for having me, Errol.
So what was your goal in looking at this?
So when we first came to look at this issue, it's because affordable housing is experiencing significant financial distress. There was a study out this autumn where half of affordable housing buildings are not collecting enough rent to cover growing expenses. So that's where we started. But then once we dug into the data, we saw that this was a real problem where we both had to help the tenants and the buildings they live in.
I've gone to some of your conferences, and they're really very impressive. There are a lot of different public and private and nonprofit sector folks who have acquired a great deal of expertise over the decades, and they put together these really complicated deals. I was shocked to look at this report and basically see that one deal after another appears to be on some level unraveling, that there are, in fact, more people in affordable housing facing eviction than there are people coming into the system through the housing lottery.
That's right. So we paired up with NYU Furman Center and we analyzed all of the eviction court filings in New York City and we compared it to their subsidized housing database. So we found that there are 43,000 filings out of 120,000 annually in 2024. And that's more than a third of filings. So then we thought, what can we do to, one, prevent these filings from happening? Because no operator of affordable housing is looking to evict the tenant that came in through the housing lottery or a homeless set-aside. We want to find ways to stably house them, keep them in their housing. And then the second piece is, if they will not engage, if that tenant is not willing to engage with the landlord or the city before a pressure point like housing court, how can we get better outcomes in housing court? So we have a proposal around that too.
Yeah, I want to get to that in a minute, but I guess just to not sugarcoat it, are we basically running in place? I mean, if we're losing more people through eviction out of affordable housing than are coming in each year, it means that the numbers of people who are getting the assistance they need is dwindling.
So I think the important thing to note here is that the actual eviction rate in affordable housing is low, right? There are 43,000 filings and only about 5% result in a warrant for eviction. So it's really an issue of non-payment. It's somebody who is experiencing shortage of hours, their seasonal work hasn't come through. We've all experienced cost inflation since 2020, right? And if you're a low-income household, you have very little cushion to absorb any emergency, any economic shock. So the idea is, let's get some help in place for someone as soon as they don't pay their rent on month 1, and we can really turn that around. And we think it's better outcomes for all parties.
As it is now, your report found that cases take about 406 days to resolve. That's more than a year.
That's the median.
Yeah, so this is not good, right? Because the arrears just increase. The landlord is then deprived of the revenue they need to even just keep the building going, right?
That's right. So the tenant, often once they're in the situation, they can't dig themselves out of the hole on their own if they're living in affordable housing. And the owner, is deferring maintenance, having trouble paying their bills. Like, we see a lot of them are really falling into distress. So addressing the issue sooner is definitely part of the problem, but we are looking for some policy change from the Mamdani administration. And we have had meetings, and we do feel like we're getting on the same page where they are looking at this to be more proactive and prevent those filings from ever happening.
So now they've been in office for less than 100 days. So this is something, what I'm about to say is not something that they created, but we have a program that you refer to in the report as one-shots, where social services will step in and help a tenant with what is, it's described as a loan, these one-shots, but I don't know what the repayment rates are, and frankly, it doesn't look very good, but they're putting up $500 million a year to help people, sort of get through these non-payment crises. Is there a better way to use that money?
Certainly. If we can address the non-payment issue more quickly, it's going to cost much less per household, possibly half of what the city is paying right now. And so, yeah, that's not how we want to be spending public dollars. We want anyone who can pay their rent to be paying their rent. I also think that if we are having the city intervene, we're looking for them to send an escalation to the tenant saying, hey, you need to engage with this landlord, enter a payment plan, or ask for help if your financial situation has changed, because we do need to get that pressure point earlier to address the issues so that we're not having non-payment issues at 12 months, at 18 months.
Your proposed solution, an affordable housing stability court, and you talk about what I guess is a demonstration program for about $800,000. You say you can put some people in place and help with this early intervention you're describing.
So we're actually looking for a full citywide program. It would be $17 million. It would serve all affordable housing tenants across New York City. And, it's based on an eviction diversion model where you would have a 45-day adjournment. So it really takes pressure off housing court, right? And if it is a non-payment issue that can be resolved with assistance quickly, then let's resolve it quickly. But before that, again, we are looking for the city's HRA and HPD, the Human Resources and Housing Agencies, to work with the affordable housing owners to get more outreach to tenants so that they're not going to court at all.
Well, I mean, but look, the average tenant, having signed a lease and understands that the rent is due every month, they know when they're falling behind, right? I mean, what is it that the city would be doing that the tenant doesn't already know?
So these trends are really post-COVID, right? And we know that we've had serious cost inflation post-COVID, and I think just a lot of turmoil in people's lives. So it does seem like we need to revisit what are the social services being offered and when they can be offered. So yes, the lease is an agreement and people need to pay their rent, but when they can't and they've attained their housing through either the housing lottery or a homeless referral, let's try to help them hold on to that housing in any way we can. And
you mentioned in here in the report, 11% of buildings are collecting less than 80% of rent. 80% is what, a marker suggesting that it's a real dire situation for that landlord?
It's a dire situation for that landlord. And again, we have this kind of perfect storm of lower rent collection that we're seeing in affordable housing and also escalating costs. We did an event today on distress in affordable housing with nonprofits, and then a whole segment just on insurance, right? How do we bring down insurance costs? Another driver here, which is really putting these buildings at risk.
Has the city seen this report? What's your early feedback about what the Mamdani administration might be willing to do?
So they have seen the report. We've talked about it a bunch. I think they're really taking it seriously. They do want to address the issue, and I think they're evaluating it. But I think we're going to have a good response. That's my feeling. I know that at HRA, they've been talking about, how they can work with existing programs, and also the HPD commissioner has been really engaged.
Okay, we are going to continue this conversation, and we'll wish you the best of luck. Thanks a whole lot.
Thank you so much.
Okay, let's take a short break now. When we come back, I'll talk about the improvised explosive device that was used at a protest outside of Gracie Mansion when I'm joined by two consultants. Stay with us.
After 30 years of forecasting for New York, I've learned it takes a dedicated team to cover all the weather our city has to offer. As chief meteorologist at New York One, I'm honored to be able to help New Yorkers plan their day.
Morning, noon, or night, our team is here to bring you accurate forecasts you can count on, from severe weather updates to our weather on the ones. Watch the New York One weather experts with your weather on the ones, on your TV, and on the go with the Spectrum News app.
I moved from Dallas to Los Angeles all by myself. The order of things I wanted to set up was internet, water, then power. I needed to take a shower, but I really did need the internet for work and to watch my shows. That's kind of a crazy thing to admit in front of a camera. Pretend I didn't say that. I got to Spectrum. I was so relieved that I was getting the best bang for my buck. It was a huge weight taken off of my shoulders.
Real customers, real savings. To see how much you can save, visit spectrum.com/save.
I'm an ex-drug dealer, and I'll be your sub today. Two milligrams of fentanyl can be lethal. A lethal dose is in here. Who gets it, I won't know.
It's cheap, it's potent, and it's profitable.
The sad reality is fentanyl is being mixed into everything now.
More kitchen now.
My father was a New York City firefighter. My mission, like his, is to serve New Yorkers in a city that doesn't stop when the sun goes down. Being with New York One since the beginning, I'm now honored to join you even earlier each weeknight. Starting at 8 with New York Tonight, we'll explore the latest news developments, followed by New York One at 10 to wrap up your day. So join me each weeknight starting at 8 right here on New York One.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall, where we are turning back to tonight's top story. Two men are facing federal charges after allegedly attempting to detonate two explosive devices at dueling protests over the weekend outside the mayor's residence, Gracie Mansion. Joining me now to talk about that and much more are the members of this week's Consultants Corner. We have two Democratic consultants this week, Tess McCrae and Tyrone Stevens. Thank you both for being here. And Tess, let me start with you. I mean, for some critics, apparently some are still unhappy about the outcome of last year's election. Nothing the mayor says will ever be the right thing at the right time. But Generally speaking, how did he handle this unprecedented event?
I mean, it's complicated. I mean, we also have to take into account that Mayor Mamdani faced a litany of attacks tied to his religion from the moment he announced he was running for mayor. So I think that it has to be hard for him personally, politically, and of course, you know, acting as manager of the city of New York. I think that he's recovered strongly. I think that he's shown that he's not going to tolerate violence in the city, which is what he needs to do. I think he needs to reassure people that he's going to act strongly. This was a criticism that many made, that he would be soft on crime and soft on issues like this. So the fact that he's stepping out strong and saying it will not be tolerated is important.
Mm-hmm.
Well, look, I mean, look, we value the right to protest in New York City. We value the right to protest strongly. But obviously, once it devolves into violence and threatening people's lives, when you have explosive devices potentially being detonated or being launched in public, that creates a whole new dynamic that's completely unacceptable. I think the mayor has been strong in condemning it. And regardless of what direction it comes from politically, this is not tolerated. We have a zero-tolerance policy for violence as masquerading as speech, and I think that he stepped out strongly today and made that clear.
Some of the criticism seemed to suggest that he should have, from the first moment, even before all of the facts I think were in, but from the first moment, you know, denounced, you know, Islamist terrorism and sort of gotten into the substance of what these attackers are alleged to have done and why.
I think that's a little cheap, frankly. I think the job of the mayor, you have to follow the facts. You let the facts lead, and then your actions follow. In fact, it's more important for the mayor, as the leader of the city, to project that calm and that reassurance that's informed, that's not knee-jerk, and that's reflective of the actual circumstances. So he's not jumping the gun, getting ahead of his police commissioner, getting ahead of the investigation, and actually reflecting what the reality is.
Yeah, it's very interesting to see how young these people are. It reminds me in some ways of some other attacks that we've seen in the past. The Boston Marathon bombing comes to mind, of people who are sort of either self-radicalized or through online engagement. I guess we'll find out all of that as the facts come out, right?
Yeah, of course. I mean, there's going to be a lot of questions. Why now? Why this event? Why here? And, you know, I think there's going to be a lot of people who weigh in. I think right now, a lot of that weighing in is certainly politically driven, and it's certainly creating a litany of hate and attacks on the Muslim community, which is, of course, inappropriate and uncalled for. But it'll be interesting to see, you know, how this impacts the mayoral administration and how the president may potentially take advantage of it.
While all of this is going on, the mayor is hoping that the legislature and their one-house bills are going to take him up on his request to raise taxes and at least nominally start some kind of pressure on the governor. You think that's going to happen?
Well, certainly in the Assembly, look, they've been proposing a tax increase for years. This is not new for the Assembly, for Carl Heasey's one-house budget from the Assembly House. So, look, I expect it to continue. I don't expect it to ultimately change the governor's position. I think she staked out a position that's very clear. In an election year, she's not entertaining this, and I think she views it, and with some reason, that this is a tax increase undercuts her message of taking out affordability, regardless of what, you know, one poll or another poll might say. That's not the direction she's going to go. But yes, I do expect that the Democratic Senate and Democratic House, or Democratic Assembly will put a tax increase on the table.
I mean, politically, they kind of have to make a show of it, not just to satisfy the mayor, but the Democratic base seems to want Democratic leadership to go out there and fight for them and really try and, you know, basically take some money away from rich people.
Yeah, and I mean, I do think that there's a lot of members in both conferences who probably support it too and have supported it long before, you know, Mayor Mamdani was even an option. So I think that, you know, this has been in the talks for years, as you were saying. They've put it in one houses in years before, so I'm not surprised there. You know, I think on the governor's end, she has a lot of calculus to do. She's no longer facing a primary from the left, so that pressure is kind of relieved. And she also doesn't want to look like she's, you know, following leadership from the mayor, right? She's the governor. She wants to show strength. She's just partnered with him on this 2K program and has assured him that it will be funded. So I think, you know, issuing a tax on the millionaires, whether you support it or not, would kind of contradict that message of we've got it covered.
Well, this also gets at another political calculation that she has to make, is that, you know, regardless of where the progressive base is on this issue, she's also very clearly staked out a position, and then the flip-flop on that carries its own political costs.
True.
So,
Very true.
So that's, that's part of the dynamic.
All right, let's take a short break. We've got more to talk about with these consultants. We'll do that in 2 minutes. Stay with us.
We have so many ways to stay connected. A single touch can bring us closer to the families we love, the friends we know, and the city we share. And Spectrum helps us keep connected throughout the day, every day. Including more ways to watch New York One as a Spectrum Internet customer. Watch Spectrum News New York One on the Spectrum News app, available on all your favorite devices.
I don't know if the world knows this, but kids are expensive. And when we found out we were pregnant, of course, we were looking for any ways to slash bills.
And making sure we only had what we needed so that everything was less stressful.
And saving money with our internet bill really helped us out a lot. Came to Spectrum because we were with AT&T before, and Spectrum just had better deals.
That money we saved with Spectrum just added to what we could repurpose for our daughter.
Real customers, real savings. To see how much you can save, visit spectrum.com/save.
Every day tells a new story. At Mornings on One, we're dedicated to bringing you the stories that matter most to start your day with in-depth coverage of the day's news.
I'm Pat Kernan. Here are the stories we're following.
And weather updates every 10 minutes.
Tomorrow, some morning sunshine possible. Clouds take over.
It's our responsibility to get you the information you need before you head out the door. Mornings on One. Weekdays starting at 6 on the Spectrum News app. Free for Spectrum and Xfinity customers.
Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
It's the beginning of building a new country, but they have no Navy, they have no Air Force, they have no anti-aircraft equipment. It's all been blown up. They have no radar, they have no telecommunications, and they have no leadership. It's all gone. So, you could look at that statement. We could call it a tremendous success right now as we leave here. I could call it, or we could go further, and we're going to go further.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall, where I am once again joined by my Consultants Corner. Two Democratic consultants this week, Tess McRae and Tyrone Stevens. Reading between the lines, what is the president saying there? It looks like he's trying to sort of get us prepared for the idea of declaring victory and coming home.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he wants this to look as it did with Venezuela, a regime change, cleaning things up, pulling out, not a war. He's been facing backlash not only from Democrats, but from within his own party that he promised no wars under his presidency. And he has contradicted that promise twice now. So I think he's trying to make this look nothing more and nothing less than a regime change.
Is it really regime change, though, or the assassination of a head of state?
Boy, it's hard to understand exactly what the objectives are because they said reading between the lines, but the lines are all over the place. Because, you have the defense secretary yesterday on 60 Minutes saying, this is just the beginning of a long process. And now the president today saying we could just declare this a success right now. And you have, the Speaker of the House saying this isn't a war, it's a special combat mission, a la Vladimir Putin in Ukraine, or the president calling it a war. So they haven't really been on the same page. It's hard to follow exactly what they're trying to do. The only thing they've been consistent about is that they're trying to address, they don't want the reconstitution of the Iranian nuclear program, which of course, that's knowledge-based. It's hard to bomb away knowledge. Even if you were to get rid of it, they could reconstitute it anyway once you're out of the picture. So, what we're trying to achieve here, what the upside is, remains unclear, but the president seems to be entertaining at least the idea of making this a quick exercise.
Let me switch topics. The City Council Standard and Ethics Subcommittee has voted to charge Vicky Paladino, the member from Queens, with disorderly behavior and violating the council's anti-harassment and anti-discrimination policy. That's over Islamophobic comments that she made online on social media. Is the whole internet now part of the workplace? I mean, this is what I think one of her supporters was telling me, was saying, like, look, if she makes these comments, you know, however offensive they may be, it's essentially as if she's outside of the building, outside of the council. How is it that they can possibly police her speech in a situation like that?
I mean, it's a question, right? She certainly has her First Amendment rights, but the council also has its internal rules and conduct it can hold its members to. And I would say that the Muslim New Yorkers, but also the Muslim City Council staff, City Council members have a right to go into work and not feel that one of the members may hate them or wish they be banished from the city of New York.
Oh, so no, Western lands.
Western lands, you're right. Even far so, yeah. So I think, you know, it's going to be complicated, but I would argue that social media is a bit broader than standing in front of a building shouting at the masses. So, you know, it's going to be, it's a first of its kind in this way. I mean, there's been members charged with this similar violation before, but not in this exact way. But I mean, her comments were very extreme and pretty disgusting.
I think it's a bit of a red herring. Like, if you make hateful comments and you make comments that undermine or betray the responsibility of the office, the standard to which the council holds its members to, the council has a responsibility to uphold its members to a standard of conduct. And trying to say, well, she didn't betray her responsibility in this venue or that, no, what's wrong is wrong, and I think they have a right to say that and to enforce a standard of conduct that they believe is worthy of the city of New York.
What I find really striking about it is these kind of situations normally don't get to this point because somebody, you know, they go behind closed doors and they say, well, I'll say this and I'll apologize for that and we'll all just walk away from this. Vicky Paladino doesn't want to walk away.
No, and look, again, I think in her case specifically as a repeat offender, I mean, I think that does factor in. This has been an issue that's been consistent with her. This is not the first time folks have raised, her rhetoric has, and conduct has raised serious alarms among her members, among New Yorkers. And, you know, given the circumstances, given that history, I do think that all plays a part of this as well.
And I think we have to remember where Vicky Paladino's kind of roots are. This is very on brand for her, right or wrong. You know, she got her start being the woman screaming at Bill de Blasio and getting captured on cameras for doing so. And that's, you know, that sort of like, you know, doesn't care, will say what she feels. That brand is always who she is. I think this is a huge deviation from, you know, she was fighting about, I think it was mask protocol, something to do with COVID at that time. This is like, you know, pretty blatantly racist and Islamophobic. So we'll see. I don't think it's going to land as well.
We shall see. Thank you very much, Tess McCraig. Very good to see you. Let's, Tyrone Stevens, that is going to do it for tonight's show. Thanks so much for watching and have a great evening. We'll see you next time inside City Hall. Going into the 2026 election, local races will determine national policy, from the economy to public safety. From the governor's race to the balance of power in Washington, this year's ballot has no shortage of important choices. Let Spectrum News New York One be your resource for balanced, up-to-date coverage and analysis, so you can know what the issues are and how they impact your community. Always dedicated, always local, always on. Decision 2026 on Spectrum News New York One.
This is a very special place. It is a place where we like to think we make memories.
We have the capacity for nearly 20,000 people in the arena.
Working at a building like this, you have access to so many resources. It's about utilizing the tools that we have to be able to create those memories for our partners, for our fans, and for anybody who steps into this building. At the end of the game, they're going to leave here feeling like they enjoyed the experience, enjoyed the game, and that's what we're here for.
A venue like this has a lot of moving parts, but at its heart, it has its technology backbone.
Spectrum powers scoreboards, ticketing, point of sales. They also provide a highly secure network that takes care of fan security, security of the Wi-Fi access, and any data that our fans are sharing while in the arena.
Our fans have an expectation that technology is part of their experience, and Spectrum helps us do that.
There's nothing quite like the feeling of going to the theater. Onstage celebrates that excitement every week by taking you behind the scenes with the latest news and in-depth interviews of the hottest shows on and off Broadway. So grab a seat, because this is a show you won't want to miss. Join us every